Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, September 19th. Hurricane Fiona now has sustained winds of 90 miles per hour, continues to pound away at Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, especially the country of Dominican Republic. Right now, the center of Fiona has moved right over the eastern tip of Hispaniola, which is right over the Dominican Republic. It will intensify over the next few days into a major hurricane, but remain, fortunately for the U.S. East Coast, well out to sea. It looks like it could certainly have a big impact on the island of Bermuda, but an incoming trough and an intensifying trough in the northeastern part of the country will assure its staying out to sea type of track. Eventually, it certainly can impact the Canadian maritime provinces, but for now, it's pounding away at the northern Caribbean islands. Right here, the latest infrared satellite imagery loop from the College of DuPage weather website. You can see right here the center, right over Dominican Republic. This is the island of Hispaniola. Dominican Republic is on the eastern side, Haiti on the western side. This is the island of Puerto Rico. They have been pounded with heavy rainfall and continue to get pounded away with heavy rainfall. And this storm, again, will move ultimately in a northwest direction and intensify over the next few days over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean, likely becoming a major hurricane, and it'll come close to the island of Bermuda later on in this week. Well, here's the latest official storm track by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. Last week we talked about a couple different scenarios. One scenario had the storm kind of sliding slowly as a weaker system to the west and perhaps going over Florida or the Florida Straits into the Gulf of Mexico. And another scenario had it doing what it's doing right now, a curvature to the north. We talked about if it intensifies quickly, the curvature to the north is the most likely scenario, and indeed that is what kind of felt was the favorable scenario last week, and indeed it's turning out that way. It's intensified quite rapidly as it approached these northern Caribbean islands. Again, a hurricane right now, likely to become a major hurricane. When the system gets to the more of the mid-latitudes, maybe 20, 25 degrees or north, and it intensifies, it tends to have a more of an influence by the upper air winds. In this particular case, an upper level trough will be intensifying over the northeastern part of the U.S., and that in turn will help to keep it out to sea as it slides well off the eastern seaboard over the next few days. The hurricane right now, the M right here stands for major hurricane. All signs point to a Category 3 perhaps, or perhaps even a Category 4 this particular stage. And here's Bermuda right here. This is as we get into the latter part of the work week, Thursday night, Friday time frame, and it continues to take that out to sea track and then out of the cooler waters of the northern Atlantic. This is Nova Scotia right here, but with an incoming trough, and we'll look at that in a moment, right here, intensifying over the northeastern part of the country later this week. It almost assures that it stays away from the U.S. East Coast, and a real impressive cool shot actually pushes into the mid-Atlantic region, northeastern states, the Great Lakes, Thursday, Friday time frame. But again, it continues to pound away at Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico here with heavy rainfall, and it'll slowly make that curvature to the northwest and the north, and then ultimately to the northeast later in the week. Well, let's kind of decipher last night's 0Z run of the GFS, the operational version. I want to first take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly pattern, because again, that is playing a role in the storm track of Hurricane Fiona. Shown here, right here, a reflection at 500 millibars as we begin the day here on Monday morning, September 19th. High pressure ridging over the center part of the nation. And there is a trough at this particular time over the southeastern part of Canada. But let's move forward here. And here goes Fiona over the southeastern Bahama Islands by the time we get to Tuesday. And then notice kind of a sign here of an intensifying or kind of a retrograding of an upper level trough. Well, something else pulls in from south central Canada by the time we get to midweek, and that indeed is quite a cool shot of air. It looks like it'll be quite a bit below normal temperatures, first for the Great Lakes, then the Mid-Atlantic region late in the week, New England late in the week, and that particular trough certainly has an influence on the storm track of Fiona from the mid to the latter part of this particular week. A very strong upper level trough here showing up by the time we get to Thursday night and Friday, and it helps to keep this system away from the northeastern part of the nation. Now ultimately it can kind of get trapped in and kind of absorbed by that upper level trough and have an impact in some of the Canadian maritime provinces here by the time we get to the upcoming weekend. But again, real impressive cool shot coming to the Great Lakes, northeastern part of the nation later in the week, and again that trough will play a role in the ultimate storm track of Fiona, which looks like it'll avoid the U.S. East Coast. Canadian maritime provinces certainly have to stay on guard. Now let's quickly move forward here as we get into the end of the weekend and the early part of next week. This is a week away from today, Monday, September 26th. Still a lot of cool air situated in the eastern part of the nation a week away. Again, we start to cool down by Thursday in the mid-Atlantic region of the northeast U.S. following a strong cold frontal passage late Wednesday night. So Thursday, Friday, especially Friday, will be cooler than normal days in the northeastern quadrant of the nation. You can see there'll be kind of a reinforcement coming in by the time we get to the early part of next week. Well, let's take a look at what that upper level trough will mean in terms of temperatures. Here we're looking at 850 millibar temperature anomalies, and starting off warmer than normal, quite a bit warmer than normal as we begin the work week, not only in the central part of the nation, but also in the northeastern part of the nation. There may certainly be some record high temperatures set later on this afternoon, all the way from the central U.S. into the northeastern part of the nation. We'll move forward here. It stays very warm tomorrow in the middle part of the nation, and not quite as warm tomorrow as it will be today in the mid-Atlantic region. Then we move forward here and we start to see the cold shot showing up here by midweek. This is Wednesday afternoon. A lot of cooler than normal conditions up across the northern plains, south central Canada. Also, by the way, over California by the midweek. Still warm on Wednesday in the Midwest, in the northeastern part of the nation. But look at that cold shot just charging to the south and east. By the way, this is a little reflection in terms of 850 millibar temperature anomalies of Fiona. That is Bermuda right there, that little dot. But look at this blast of cool air, first over the Great Lakes and then into the northeastern states on Thursday. And it really will be felt in places like Philadelphia, D.C., New York City, Boston on Friday. Friday, a well below normal temperature day, probably highs in the 60s, even in the urban areas along the I-95 corridor region, a breeze as well. And that cool air will tend to dissipate a little bit over the upcoming weekend. But as we saw a moment ago, there's another upper level trough that will intensify and kind of renew the below normal conditions in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic region by the time we get to the early part of next week. Also quite a bit warmer than normal out across parts of the northwestern U.S. into southwestern Canada a week from now. We're talking here a week from today. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps, again using the 0Z run of the GFS. And there is a weak frontal system crossing the eastern part of the Great Lakes. The Ohio Valley could actually spark a scattered shower or thunderstorm even in the I-95 corridor later on today into tonight. Not a widespread heavy rain event by any means, but it will be the first chance of a shower or thunderstorm in many days in the mid-Atlantic, in the northeastern part of the country. It is a weak front, only scattered to isolated across the mid-Atlantic region. More numerous showers and thunderstorms later today across New England, and certainly can be some heavy rainfall up there, up across the heart of New England later on today. And here we start to see Fiona showing up on the maps by tomorrow morning over the southeastern Bahama Islands. And it will turn to the northwest, then to the north, and then to the northeast over the next few days. And it continues to intensify. Notice here 943 millibar low. And here comes that next cold front. This is a stronger cold front than what we'll experience today in the Great Lakes, the northeastern U.S. This cold front arrives in the northeastern quadrant of the nation Wednesday night. And look at that strong Canadian high following a 1024 millibar high. Let's continue to move forward. And with that incoming strong upper level trough, it will certainly assure that Fiona, now likely a major at this particular time, come Thursday evening, there's 939 millibars, it'll likely assure that it cannot hit the U.S. East Coast. It tends to steer it away to the north and east by the end of the work week. And here we are into the day on Friday, and this is an expansive Canadian high pressure system centered over the Midwest, and there'll be a breeze to boot on Friday, and probably temperatures confined to the 60s for highs all the way from D.C. to Boston, it looks like. The coolest day so far on Friday. And here goes Fiona pushing off to the north and east. Again, at the end of the week, into the weekend, early part of next week, we'll have to watch up here in the Canadian Maritimes provinces. This is the Saturday morning forecast map. Certainly Fiona at that particular time, what remains of Fiona, and this will be a strong system for sure. It could get kind of absorbed into the upper level trough and have an impact all the way in the eastern part of Canada. But the U.S. East Coast seems like it'll be spared, partly as a result of that strong upper level trough coming into the northeastern states later on this week, with a very, very impressive cool shot for the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast U.S. and Mid-Atlantic region Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame. Meanwhile, in the short term, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic continue to get pounded away by Hurricane Fiona, which over the next few days should intensify into major storm status. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.